Hi everyone, Elle Hackney here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I get to speak to everyone in the book community, whether they be authors, illustrators, podcasters, or industry professionals. Today's guest writes mystery and fantasy and loves to promote other authors on her socials. Please welcome Catharina Steel.
Hello.
Now it's your turn. We're going to promote you today.
Love it.
Tell me all about the mystery and fantasy stories you write.
So I love writing for the younger audience. So I write the book that's just recently been published by Spark Press. Their distributor is Simon and Schuster. So that's for me, that's a really huge achievement. And so that's just recently published. It's written in United States English. But I think these days, a lot of because it's a middle grade, so years 8 through to 12. So because a lot of kids are on the online these days, they're used to US English, whereas the US market, I feel, is less familiar with other English, like the spelling and grammar. And so if it's not in US English, they go, oh, that's wrong.
Yes.
So I found it better to write in US English. And so I had to learn all of that. And it's not just the spelling, though. I found it's also certain words that get used differently. So I work with some really talented editors from the United States, and they've helped me with that sort of thing. But yeah, so I write I write a lot of my mystery fantasies set in forest. There's a lot about that because I grew up hiking a lot with my family. And the forest is such a magical place, just the way it naturally is. So it doesn't actually take too much to open that door to let in the imagination. And, you can look at the tree and the way it's shaped and the gnarls and things, and it looks like there's a bit of a door there. And, you walk and you hear the sounds and like, is that a fairy up in the tree? Or, so you can take your children on walks and really spark their imagination. And a lot of people don't realize, or I think it's a bit more, people are a bit more aware of it now, but certainly not when I was growing up. Using your imagination and encouraging your child to use their imagination actually helps them to think outside the box. And they're then capable to approach tasks in a unique way and come up with some amazing results because of that. So one of the reasons I write in fantasy is because I'm a strong believer in developing that imagination. And it's not about whether you believe in magic or not, because for me, writing in magic it's just fantasy. It's fun. It opens up the world to your writing to so many different ideas. You can apply concepts in a way that it's easy to convey to the younger audience. And so that's one of the reasons why I write in this world. And also children do struggle with stress just like us adults. They can become overwhelmed and life can become hard, particularly if they're being bullied or there's something going on that's stressful in their life. Children actually do suffer from depression, so it's actually really important. And one of the things that I've read a number of studies on, and it's something that I'm quite passionate about, is that getting outside of urban environments, the studies have proven, so they did like brain scans before and after people spending time out away from urban environments, so in the outdoors, like a forest. And that actually helps to reset the system. So if somebody's stressed, it helps them to basically, because when you go into that kind of flight or flight mode, you're kind of on the gas pedal in your mind, right? Your brain starts spinning, you've got all this tension in your body, it's all tight and it makes it really hard to think straight. And when you go outdoors, just the exercise itself helps to take that tension out of the body and loosen it up. But it also that piece, you've got the natural sounds of the forest, the birds, the wind in the trees, the crunch of your shoes on the ground, and it's very relaxing. And it just helps people to step off that gas pedal that is very much part of our day-to-day lives. Yeah. And children benefit just as much from this as adults do.
Oh, so, absolutely. No, I've actually heard that study as well, where it was also related to faces. Like if you are either in a schoolyard or, say, as an adult walking through a city and you don't realize, but you're just seeing faces like this, right? It actually does mess with your subconscious. So when you go, I've read, like yourself, I've heard about these studies where when you go into nature and you're focusing on naturally soothing colors like browns, greens, blues, the white of the clouds, the gray of the clouds, and that's all you're focusing on, it takes away from seeing even just a sea of faces that you don't realize they're not all happy, smiling faces.
Well, we're living in a stressful world these days. And people, that stress is conveyed on your face. And even that fake smile, which like I've been, yeah, I don't even realize I do it. But one of the things when I was working and people say, oh, you're always smiling. And I'm like, wow. Nope. It's automatic, but people don't realize, and they're probably only picking up on it subconsciously to realize I'm actually stressed out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that, and even when you smile at people these days, they're really scared to smile back.
Yes.
And I think that's so sad. It's so sad because I
agree with you. And it's really sad because a lot of people naturally don't see that as a reaction because they've got so much to think about. And I love how you're attaching story to this as a way of escaping, because I like kids to write their own stories. If they can't pick up one that they like, I would rather them create their own. And do you, so with your fantasy and your mystery and your stories with the forest, what's the best feedback you've had from children so far?
I think just that they love that it's the goblin. I have in Vanishings, I actually, because I've got goblins in my story, and and I've got human witches and creature witches, and I've got gnomes and all sorts of fun stuff. But in my story, the goblins, it's, if you're a goblin, you're not necessarily bad, right? Because you know how typically they're portrayed as these evil, ugly characters. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to really sort of say, look, it doesn't matter what somebody looks like. It's their actions and how they treat others that are more important. So I have good goblins and I have bad goblins. And so on Opus property, which is where the Tilly, my main protagonist, and her twin cousins, Jess and Zach, they go to stay at Opus during the summer holidays to learn about magic. And so, one of the things that Oprah is really keen on is that the children learn how to physically defend themselves, so a form of martial arts. And one of the goblin, Mort, who lives on Oprah's property, he is trained in multiple types of martial arts. He's very highly experienced. He's also got experience with war and knowing how to, deal with that sort of stuff. Not that we have a war in the book, but, that's his background. And because goblins, they've got longer arms and they've got the long, sharp nails, and they're both their hands and their feet, and they're very strong and wiry. And so if you're fighting a goblin, you need to adjust your stances and things like that to, especially if you're a child, to be able to be successful in a fight, basically, to protect yourself. And so there's this form of go-bite fighting, which I call go-bite martial arts.
I love that.
So that is something that the kids really sort of go, wow, that's really cool. Even the adults are going, that's really cool.
It is cool. It's really cool.
sort of really, I didn't set out to do that. It just kind of happened. And I think that's why it works.
Yeah.
Because
And it's
it
different.
came naturally into the
And it's
story.
like visually, all I can think about is this goblin doing a flying tornado kick. Like,
Yeah. But if you imagine, like, so Tilly, my main protagonist, she has her magic, her talent is seer skills. So she can see past, present, and future. But one of the things that I haven't seen done before that I've done in my book is that naturally, because her powers have been bound by her grandmother, because her grandmother wants to protect her and keep her safe from the magical world, does the opposite. But her intentions are good, right? So Tilly doesn't know that this is her power, but she's been getting these dreams. And when she goes to Opa, and she's taking like shrinking and growth potions, so because most of the creatures except for the elves are like a size of a hand, and but they can take so to get into their homes, the children take shrinking potions so they can visit with the creatures in their homes, and then they take growth potions, but the creatures can also take growth potions to be the same size as the humans, but after a time they naturally return to their normal size. So Tilly, these shrinking and growth potions, they've been sort of slightly undoing Gran's spell, and so she's getting a little bit more access to a magic, and so she's getting a little bit. So she was only getting a certain amount of this vision while she was asleep, and it started to extend, but still while she's in a sleep. So she's not able to access her powers during the day. And so she doesn't know what this is. She doesn't know what's going on. And so she's confused. But one of the things that she does have access to, and this is the bit that I haven't seen before, is that she is always seeing a couple of minutes into the future.
ooh,
Right? Yeah. But she doesn't know she's doing it. It's always been part of her, right? And you know, if you don't know any different, you don't know that that's not normal.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
And that's so different for a layer of a character. And so like you could, gosh, that's going to take so far into these stories. Like, how many books into Vanishings are you into? How many books in this series?
So there's 4 books all up in the series. I've basically got the outline. Book 2 is basically I've just got to write a couple of scenes, and then edit it.
Because
But I know
there's so many more stories that could come out. How many books would you like to see in this series?
well, I have I think for this series I've got 4 that I think would be really, really make the series great, and
Yeah.
it has that conclusion to it. But the side stories I have, gosh, I can, because I've got all these different characters. So I do want to write the Witcher story in the book.
Yeah, it could be a massive franchise. Like, it just sounds like where could it stop, and why would you want it to stop? Because the layers of all these characters, there's just so much to them. You could really go to town.
Oh, and I have so much fun figuring it out. Like at first I was like, because I come from an accounting sort of business background, always wanted to write, and I don't know why my family thought accounting would be a good idea for me. But when you're in year 10 and you're thinking about what you want to do in life, I wanted to either be an architect or an interior designer or a writer. Those were my 3, right? And they still are totally within my interest. Like, I never stopped being interested in these things. One of the things I do in my spare time is to look at property.
Okay.
Most people hate that. I love it.
Yeah, why not?
It's just one of those things, right? So, but I just have never lost interest, because but I'm not looking at the property from the same, like, to buy or something like that. I'm more interested in the design.
Yeah.
How things have been done. And so part of that, like when I came, one of the first things I saw with Vanishings was actually the creatures' houses on Oprah's property. So that's one, and I've got Jenny the fairy on Opus Property. She lives in a trunk of a treehouse. Her cousin Fairy Christie, she's in a treehouse up way up in the tree. And to get it, if you're not a fairy, so you can't just sort of fly up there, she's got a lift within the trunk of the tree to get up there.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I've got like a red cat mushroom home, but it's like a twin. So you've got two red cat stems going up. You can see it in the image actually behind me.
Yeah.
So this is Wilbur's, the kid gnome's home. So hang on. So I came up with that, and you've got like winding stairs going up in one stem, and in the other stem you've got a fireman's pole to get down.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I just had, and I've got like the creature witch on Opus Property. She's got like this knee-high boot house, and it's got like her bedroom's at the top, and it's got this big balcony that they can pop out and view the forest from there. And I just had so much fun, and I come out with these houses, and I would love to actually see them made for kids, for the younger kids, and potentially even write a version suitable for the younger group as well, because I just think, that would be such great imagination play, right?
Oh, I would see it as play sets. Like you've got the mush, and they would all eventually fit together to make a beautiful forest. But like,
exactly,
how beautiful to have that in your room. Like it would just be, it would
magical.
Yeah, magical. That's exactly the word I'm thinking of.
love seeing. No, you're right. I just love it when I see kids really using their imagination to play and giving them the tools to really see how far they can go, with their, because when I played, I was always telling stories. Like, I was either making stuff for my dolls. I was a very, very creative kid. I was always making stuff for my dolls or telling stories, and and I had so much fun telling stories. And I think there's something that you tap into as a child telling stories that you can only do in play, really. I mean, you learn ideas from reading a lot, on watching to a certain degree, but watching, I find, is much more passive, and I don't think you absorb it at the same level, whereas reading, you actively have to picture the scenes in your mind. And I think reading is so great for children. Definitely, think that we should encourage our children to read more. It's so important from so many different perspectives. But then the children kind of get ideas, and they can use that in their play, and encouraging them to do that. I just think seeing a child happily content using their mind to make stories that they want. These are the stories they want to read.
Yeah, absolutely. And to hold them in time if you can, because as soon as you become an adult and life hits you, you do forget those childlike wonders and that childlike joy. It's just so easily lost with the lives we have to live now. And I love that you're so enthusiastic about your stories. How long does it take you to actually write like a book in the series?
The drafting of it, I didn't know what I was doing, because coming from a business background, I haven't studied writing. Well, I have, but when I first started writing, I had no idea what I was doing. I just started writing. I didn't even know what the ending was going to be. But I had the first book written in a month.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was terrible. It was truly terrible, but I had it written. And that first book that I ever wrote is now Vanishings.
Okay.
So
after many edits.
Had a complete rewrite. Because I've learned so much. It's been a wonderful journey. There's been moments of frustration, obviously. I think, but I think when you're learning something new, you go through this frustration period of all the stuff that you need to kind of try to get your head around, and showing, not telling is actually one of those things that once you get it, you get it.
Mm.
And but before that, you kind of understand the concept, but actually doing it and being able to see when you're telling and not showing, it takes a bit more work. I can now spot it a mile away.
Yeah.
I can also tell when I'm head hopping. That's another thing. Like, people don't realize, like, as soon as you go from the character, so within the chapter, most people stick to a POV within a chapter at least. I prefer to try to stay mostly in the POV throughout the story. I only switch for certain scenes in Vanishings from Tilly's POV to the Witch of Wythic Wood's POV, because that was a way to bring in tension in the story. So, because that's another thing, you need to build that tension up to keep people
interested.
Yes. That what's going to happen next? Oh no, sort of thing. So people, they start to say what's going on in somebody else's mind. That's not the character. That is the point of view that you're writing from. But as soon as you do that, you've popped heads. You're in somebody else's POV now.
Yeah.
And people, you kind of go, you can't do that. You've got either you just can't give their thoughts, or they've got to actually express it verbally, or somebody else is going to go, oh, I bet you they're thinking about that. There are different. You get creative. And that's one of the things that people say, oh, I just want to be able, I don't like to follow the rules. I just want to be able to do my own thing. But what I think about rules, and there are boxes that you do need to stick within when you're writing for the younger audience, because they're not ready for certain things yet.
True.
And you don't want to traumatize them.
Not yet.
Anyway, they've got a whole life to live to get that done.
let them figure out some goblins with the mixed martial arts. Let them deal with that first.
Let them have fun. Let them have their childhood. Let them, live and enjoy just being a kid and learning about stuff. It's because that's fun, right?
Yeah.
So it's people. You don't do the head hop. I kind of lost my train of thought just then.
Breaking rules. Catherine is breaking rules.
Breaking rules. Yeah. No. I think you need to understand rules before you break them, because otherwise you're not going to be successful in breaking them. There's no point to breaking them, and that comes off.
Yeah.
And when you do that, what you're doing is you tend to throw people out of the story, and we all know that's a cardinal sin when it comes to writing.
Yep, absolutely. How did you go? Because this series, oh my gosh, like, it's in print, it's all over the world. You've got US editors helping you. How did you go actually pitching this? Because I mean, gosh, it's such a captivating story.
I did do some research and how to pitch, and it takes practice. It's also one of the things, because I've hybrid published, so people. So you go from the traditional end where you got hybrids that are basically traditional publishers, to those that are really just helping you to self-publish. So in Australia, we don't really have a hybrid publisher that's on the traditional end, and this publisher is. So they only accept a certain amount of manuscripts, so it's less than 10%. Those manuscripts have to be at traditional level. You're working with people from the traditional publishing industry. Everything about it is at the traditional level. It's basically the financing behind it that's a bit different, which is how and why they are able to distribute through Simon & Schuster. If they weren't meeting those standards, they wouldn't have been able to distribute through them. I found out about this publisher through an online summit that I attended. It was very American based. But at this time, I was already thinking that the US is a bigger market. Australia is very tiny. The publishing here didn't have like I said, we don't have the hybrid publishers here on the traditional end. And I already knew that getting a traditional deal was going to be next to impossible. Because I originally self-published because I had no idea. No idea. I pulled those now. But because of that, and because I didn't do the marketing to get the sales, I don't have a proven track record. And that means you're just not going to get an agent. That's the reality of it. And so unless you've got a strong following, and this is why what people sort of have some misconceptions about. The reason why they want you to have a good social media following is because that shows that you have a strong market to be able to make the sales. So I don't really have that yet, but I am working with the publishers to build that up more, because I recognise that whilst you do want to have an author newsletter, and that's going to be where you eventually are going to potentially make a lot of sales through marketing directly to those people who have said, yes, I want to hear from you because I like your work, I'm interested in your work. And, and these days, if you're traditionally published, another misconception is that the publisher is going to market your book for you. That's not the case anymore. It used to happen. So you really got to be able to sell your book, and so agents know that. And so if you don't have a good social media following, which is then hopefully going to convert to people subscribing to your newsletter, you're not going to get the sales.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have a hard time selling your book into the publishers. So knowing all of this, by the time I was at the summit, it was about 4 years down, 4 or 5 years down the track. And so I was a bit more knowledgeable about the industry. And I saw this publisher, a hybrid publisher, and I listened to what they had to say. And it's the first time I'd really heard about hybrid publishing. And I was like, that sounds like a really good option. So I have gone down that path. I was successful to get them to publish my book. And it's been an amazing journey and I've learned so much. But it's still a lot of work. Like I have to constantly be putting myself out there, not always selling. You don't want to be doing that, but you do need to constantly be putting yourself in front of people, trying to expand your audience, trying to get that algorithm to show your stuff to more people, and but still staying true to your message. And so I'm not going to go on TikTok and do a dance because that doesn't match what I'm doing.
Exactly. I think what you're doing is great though, because like you're always promoting others. And this is what I've noticed about you is that you love to uplift others as well. So I think that's so important because people are noticing what you are doing. Are you available for school visits either in person or in Zoom or through Zoom?
Definitely through Zoom. And if I'm able to, I have a greyhound, and her name is Macheri, because which is French for my darling. So I can't leave her with anybody, so I would need to be able to travel with her. Mm-hmm. So I could travel around Australia, and that's one of the reasons I didn't travel to the United States to do a promotion in person over there, is because I wouldn't have been able to take her with me, and I don't want to put her in a kennel. She wouldn't cope. She's because she's a rescue and she's very anxious, and she's doing a lot better than I've had her for about 5 years, a bit over 5 years now. She's doing a lot better, but I can't just put her with anybody. So
No, it wouldn't be fair to. It just it wouldn't be fair to.
I'm her world, and she relies on me, and she gets nervous around other people when I have had to have somebody take care of her for the night she doesn't eat. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
problem. So if I can travel with her, so anywhere around Australia, basically, if I'm, but definitely Zoom is so if it's outside of WA, Zoom's probably the better way to go. But if I can swing it, I have friends throughout Australia because I've moved around so much. So, I probably have places I could stay potentially. If not, there are places that allow dogs these days. So, and she's very
Yeah.
good. She's a good
For
dog.
anyone watching this video, if you are captivated by Katharina's sheer enthusiasm, love of storytelling, and her magical stories, make sure you give her a follow on social media, share her content, buy her books, review her books, contact her for a Zoom if you would like an enthusiastic author visit full of magic and wonder. And Catherine, thank you so much for coming and talking to me today. I have loved hearing about your journey and your magical stories.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it so much.